This lesson is predominantly coming from this section of the Bible shown in the highlighted section of this chart. Lesson 33, Part 2, Birth of the Messenger and the Messiah. Another part of God's plan required a man to prepare the entire nation of Israel for the coming of this Messiah. Thus, both Old Testament prophets, Malachi and Isaiah, predicted that a forerunner would prepare the way for the Christ. When this forerunner appeared, he would become known as John the Baptist. The New Testament starts by focusing on the birth of these two individuals, the messenger of the Messiah, which is John the Baptist, and a few months later, the Messiah himself, which of course is Jesus Christ. The conception of both would be miraculous, but only one would be conceived without the aid of a man, but rather conceived by God himself, producing a sinless child that was both fully man and fully God at the same time. This was not some lustful god like in Greek mythology who physically transformed himself in order to have intercourse with a virgin to produce a child. The God of the Bible who created man out of the dust formed himself as a human being inside a virgin and allowed himself to be born just like any other baby. It was a miraculous act that none of us can fully comprehend. It helps to understand Jewish customs and laws at the time of Christ to get a better understanding of how all this happened. Parents usually determined who a child was to marry, often at a very early age. That was the engagement stage. Then there was the betrothal stage, where the couple agreed or disagreed with the engagement. If they followed through, the betrothal was immediately binding. The betrothal lasted 1 year, according to some sources. It was during this time that the angel Gabriel appeared to Mary and told her that she was to be the mother of, quote, the Son of God, unquote. Mary then became pregnant without the aid of a man, but Joseph, her betrothed, did not know about the angelic appearance and how God caused Mary's pregnancy. So it appeared to him that Mary committed the great sin of whoredom against him. Although the Mosaic law called for the death penalty for this sin, Joseph, being a good, kind man, thought to just end the betrothal privately without causing Mary any embarrassment. It was at this point that the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph and told him what had really happened and told Joseph to go ahead and marry Mary. It is important to realize the societal stress both Mary and Joseph went through to obey God's plan. Both Mary and Joseph were told by the angel they were to name the child Jesus. The name Jesus was very common back then because it meant Savior. Everyone wanted their son to be the promised Savior. The term Christ is a title, not a name, and it meant the Anointed One. It is in reference to the Messiah. As Jesus is the Greek version of the name Savior, Joshua is the Hebrew version for the word Savior. The word Christ is the Latin word for the Anointed One, just as the word Messiah is the Hebrew version of that title. The entire composite accounts of the birth of John the Baptist and Jesus Christ can be read in the first 2 chapters of both Matthew and Luke. Remember in the last lesson we stated that one of the ways scriptures prove that Jesus is the Christ was by his lineage or ancestry? Therefore, you will find a rather lengthy list of this lineage in the Gospels. As we look at the scene that unfolds regarding the birth of Jesus Christ, we must be sure to get the important message. Although today people like to remember this as if it were a very cozy, nice Christmas scene, this birth took place in a smelly, uncomfortable stable because no one would make room for them. From his very entrance into the world that he created, Jesus was unwelcome and unwanted. We must remember that when we do God's will, we also should not expect any better. There are a number of inaccuracies in the modern-day portrayal of this event regarding the date he was born as well as the chronology concerning the arrival of the shepherds and the wise men. Also, because some religions have taught that Jesus was Mary's only son, we need to correct this error. In Matthew 1 verse 25, we find reference to the fact that Joseph did not, quote, know, unquote, Mary until after Jesus was born. The implication is that after Jesus was born, Joseph had normal marital relations with Mary. Scattered throughout the Gospels and even in the book of Acts and in the epistles, we find that Joseph and Mary had many other children after Jesus was born. 4 males are mentioned by name, along with the word sisters, indicating more than one in Mark chapter 6 verse 3. So we are sure Jesus had at least 6 younger siblings. These technically would have been Jesus' younger half-brothers and sisters. The references are as follows. We will put them up on the screen. You can freeze this and look them up later. We learn from John's Gospel that during Jesus' ministry, his half-brothers did not believe in him. But at some point, probably after his resurrection, they believed and became important members of the church. Focusing again on the birth of Jesus Christ, hundreds of years after the time of the apostles, the birth of Jesus Christ came to be commemorated as a holiday, which was called Christmas. Traditions began to develop around this holiday, which had nothing to do with Jesus Christ, nor any of the biblical events at all. Eventually, these traditions got so big, they caused people to forget the real meaning of the event that they were supposed to commemorate. Today, the holiday of Christmas has become a mass of busy, expensive preparations for celebrations that still have nothing to do with Jesus Christ at all. This necessitates a short but important point to be made about traditions and celebrations. If any tradition makes any statement about any character in the Bible which is not verified by the Bible, one should never stake his or her faith in that tradition. Many cultures have developed traditional celebrations over the years and attached them to the birth of Jesus Christ. Because elements in some traditions may have had roots to pagan practices and beliefs, some Christians chose to abstain totally from all holiday celebrations and traditions. While some traditions are blatantly against the teachings of the Bible and should be avoided by all true believers, other traditions, such as gatherings of family and friends, offer a time to thank God for our blessings and fellowship and grow closer, making memories and treasure our time with our loved ones. Any celebration of family and friends that is not conducted in an ungodly manner or for an ungodly purpose can be an opportunity to share the gospel, regardless of whether the celebration is commemorating a biblical event. There are differences between Christians as to how to handle these various traditional celebrations. The purpose of this course is predominantly to focus on the theme of salvation, that is, the biblical plan for reconciliation with God. After a person is saved or reconciled with God, then they are free to learn how they are to live their new life. Therefore, this course will not get into the details of the various traditions and identify the good ones from the bad ones. Regarding the birth of Jesus Christ, there is one important thing that needs to be said in this lesson. While we see this scene reconstructed every Christmas, we must not fail to realize that despite these scene recreations, Jesus is not a little baby anymore. We must not think of him that way now. He has accomplished his work, and now he has assumed his role as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. He is well able to take care of any situation or condition that you present to him. In the future, he will return and fully exercise this role over all mankind. In our next lesson, we will look at the ministry of John the Baptist. Talk to you in our next lesson. Goodbye for now.